A man spends the last 20 years of his life running from a word. Not a curse word, not a secret, a place name. 4 syllables that follow him into every hotel lobby in San Francisco, every parlor in Sacramento, every guest register where a clerk raises an eyebrow and says, "Oh, you're the man from Fiddletown." So he does what any reasonable person does when a word won't stop hunting them. He goes to the California state legislature. He gets a bill passed. He gets the governor's signature. He erases the town's name off the map entirely and replaces it with his daughter's, or maybe his own middle name, or maybe an Indian word for Old Home Spring that just sounded dignified enough to borrow. Nobody's fully sure. Even his own family history is a little embarrassed to commit. He dies in 1897, a free man, unbothered, address, respectable. And the name he ran from outlives him by 35 years. It just waits. Sits there on the map wearing his daughter's name like a rented suit. And then, in the middle of the Great Depression, 64 people, the entire surviving population of a town that once held 2,000, sign a piece of paper and give it back its old, ridiculous, glorious name. That's not a ghost story. That's a rebuttal. This is Drive-Thru Towns, and I'm your host, Andrew Wilcox. So here's what you get when you're blowing up Highway 49 through Amador County. A green sign, a curve, maybe a vineyard blur. Fiddletown. You've heard the name and moved on before your brain's finished processing the joke. Funny name. Next town, right? That's the whole transaction most people have with the place. In and out in 4 seconds. Filed under quirky California road trip trivia. Never opened again. Which is exactly the kind of insult this town has already survived once. Start with the water, because everything here starts with the water. Dry Creek. And understand nobody was being clever when they named that. Ran dry every summer, which is a real inconvenience when your entire economy is placer mining and a technique that needs water the way a fever needs its chill. So the miners, mostly Missouri men, would sit around during the dry months with nothing to do but wait for rain. And they fiddled. Some accounts say literally, fiddles, actual instruments, actual music drifting over a bone-dry creek bed. Other accounts say it's just old slang for idleness, fiddling around, waiting on weather. Either way, a town named after boredom, a monument to just nothing happening. Nothing happened for a while, too. The place grew slow, a handful of houses. You could count on your fingers pretty much until 1852, when somebody found real gold nearby, and the whole hillside went electric. Camp spun off in every direction, with names that read like a drunk man naming his kids. American Flat, French Flat, Loafer Flat, Lone Hill, and Fiddletown became the trading post that fed them all. 15, 20 stores, 4 hotels, dance halls, public baths, taverns enough to drown a regiment. 2,000 people at the peak. It was a town. But here's the crack in the foundation, and it was there from the start. Fiddletown never dug down. Other towns in this county found the deep quartz veins underneath the surface gold. The kind of mineral wealth that keeps a place fed for decades after the easy stuff is gone. Fiddletown didn't have that. It only had what was lying near the top. So when the placer gold thinned out, there was no second act waiting underground. The boom had a shelf life built into its geology. Except, and this is the part that gets left out of the postcard version, while the white miners were leaving, somebody else was staying and building. By 1878, Fiddletown had the second largest Chinese population anywhere in California. Only San Francisco had more. Think about that ratio for a second. A dusty foothill town, and it's outranked in Chinese residents by exactly one city in the entire state. They built for keeps, too. The Chew Kee Store still stands, made with a rammed earth technique, walls that are 2 feet thick, packed earth instead of wood, engineered specifically to stay cool when the same summer heat that dried up Dry Creek turned everything else in town into a griddle. It's a herb shop, a gambling hall, a grocery. Physical proof that while one kind of resident was busy being embarrassed by his own address, another community was busy building something meant to outlast the weather. And then, 1878, entered Judge Columbus Allen Purinton, a title he apparently never actually held in this county, but the nickname stuck the way nicknames do. His crime, if you can call it that, was vanity of the mildest kind. He hated the sound of his own hometown in other people's mouths. San Francisco, Sacramento, the big rooms where a man wanted to sound important and instead got teased. The man from Fiddletown. So he circulated a petition and it passed. The bill raced through Sacramento. It raced is the word one local historian used. And Governor William Urban signed it into law like it was a serious act of state business, which technically now it was. The new name, Alida, supposedly his daughter's name. Except genealogical records suggest the judge had no known children. Supposedly one of his own middle names. No proof of that either. Or possibly just a pretty word off a California landmark plaque meaning Old Home Spring. Even the man's own vanity project can't get a straight origin story. He renamed a town to escape a joke, and the replacement name is also a mystery nobody can nail down. You can't make this up. You can only inherit it. Purinton died in 1897, quiet, dignified, and Olida man to the end. The name Olida did not die with him. It just kept sitting there for 35 more years. Technically official, functionally hollow. A suit tailored for a man who was no longer in the room to wear it, you could say. By 1932, the town wasn't 2,000 people anymore. It was a fraction of that, deep in the Depression. And somebody threw an 83rd anniversary party for the original 1849 founding. And standing around at that party, people started asking the question that had apparently been sitting unspoken for 3.5 decades. Wait, why did we ever change it? Wasn't Fiddletown the better name? Wasn't Fiddletown the true name? By then, the law had gotten simpler. No act of the legislature required, just a petition to the postmaster. 64 residents signed it. 64 out of a town that once held 2,000. That's not a landslide vote. That's nearly the entire remaining population standing in a room together, undoing a dead man's embarrassment. So effective July 1st, 1932, Olida died, quietly, on paper, and Fiddletown came back from the grave it was never actually buried in. Today, the population sits at 279. There's a fiddle on the roof of the community center, an actual 15-foot, 150-pound wooden fiddle built as a joke that became a landmark, sitting on top of a town that spent 54 years legally pretending it was the Punchline. The Chew Kee Store is a museum now. The vineyards have moved in around the old mining scars. A former librarian who fell in love with the rolling hills lives there and tells visitors the fiddle story like it's local scripture, because by now it is. Here's the thing about a man rewriting a town's name because he's embarrassed to say it out loud. He wasn't wrong that names carry weight. He was wrong about which name would last. Every one of us has done some version of what Judge Purinton did. Polish the address, smooth the resume, pick the name that sounds better in the room full of important people. And every one of us, somewhere, has a Fiddletown. The unglamorous truth of where we actually came from, patiently waiting out our vanity, in no hurry at all, because it already knows how this ends. The judge got his signature. He got his governor. He got 35 years of silence. But the creek still runs dry every summer. And somewhere on a roof in Amador County, a 15-foot wooden fiddle still catches the afternoon light, outlasting a courtroom, outlasting a legislature, outlasting the man who thought a name was something you could simply put away. This has been Drive-Thru Towns. I'm your host, Andrew Wilcox. A special thanks to Chloe Jones for providing our music. If you enjoyed this journey, please follow the podcast to stay updated on all our upcoming episodes. To keep the conversation going, you can connect with me on Instagram at 50 State Family. Find me on LinkedIn under Wilcox Legal, or reach out directly via email at wilcoxlegal@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next road.
'Cause I was wandering free on an American dream, with a million things to see and do. But it's all good, I'm fine. Had the time of my life, 'cause I did it all with you. Ooh.